This is day 3 of the April 94 7-day retreat in Springwater. And the topic for today's talk is effort and effortlessness. It has come up in most of the group meetings and also in individual meetings. It is very close to us. This question of to make effort or not to make effort. How to reach effortlessness without effort? Or does it take an effort? It really revealed itself as a very interesting thing to explore together, and also to explore it in one's quiet sitting. So much can reveal itself if a good question that has occupied the mind before or seems very important now, sort of sits there and demands looking. Not demands going through the files to find answers from what one knows. That's our usual approach. That's what we have learned. That often what goes on when at first the question comes up in a group meeting. One comes from what one knows. That's all one knows. But then it's not necessary to just go to what one knows, but one can watch right now, or as one sits during the day or night, this whole matter of effort, making effort or effortlessness, and what goes into making effort. What is it made up of? How does it affect us? Oh, the state of being. We do admire little children because they have so much energy to go from one thing to another. Enjoying this, then dropping it, looking at something else, exploring, running, asking questions, wanting to find out with seemingly undiminishing energy. It's only the adults around who waste away or wither away. I don't think to a little child who is not yet in school or preschool, effort is any issue, or effortlessness. Everything happens out of, and I'm talking of a healthy child in fairly healthy surroundings. Our grandson was so interested. It was such a contagious thing to be with him. His interest contagious to watch things, see things, stop and stay with things. But it was when he had to go to school that he put up a tremendous resistance. I still remember one very moving and sad situation where his mother literally dragged him. He screamed and kicked. He didn't want to go. And of course, the wise adult says this is how things are. You will not always cannot always do what you want. You have to, and so forth. All this moralizing went along with dragging him to school. So the moment there is a resistance, an effort is demanded to break through that. And the resistance itself is effort. To resist with effort that which we don't want to do. And then if we have to do it because we're compelled and forced, the effort to break through the resistance or to live with the resistance. We may not break through it. Ben still tells me he doesn't like school. Recess is what he likes. That's what he likes about school. So is it because we begin to be compelled, and I'm not judging this as right or wrong, we're just looking at it, forced to do things which is not what I want to do as a little child, not going exactly by my wishes, which is of course impossible in a family, in a group, society, that the moment force sets in, being compelled to do this and not allowed to do that, that resistance and effort arises. Because we can still look at it today, having gone through school and education and work, being involved in that work and relationship. When we really love to do something or want to get someplace, it's not an effort to get there. It may be a tremendous energy aroused by the allure of what we're going to do or find, that arouses the energy to do it. It's not felt as having to make an effort because there's no resistance to, coming up to get what we want, to be with whom we want to be with, to be at a place that we want to be at. It may take energy to get there. People have said, well, it takes an effort to get here. And then what is listed is the time it takes to arrange the work or make the reservations, drive. Or I remember going to retreats when Ralph was still young and Kyle was home, and stocking up the refrigerator with meals. Tremendous effort. And then opening the refrigerator, coming home, and half of it or more than half of it was still in there. They went out to eat. Couldn't bring themselves to make the effort to eat that stuff. So I think we can agree. Let's look, not just agree verbally or intellectually, that if something we love to do presents itself to do, whether here or at a distance in space or time, the energy comes very naturally to get there and do it, or to be here and do it. Or sometimes, particularly in the evening before meetings start, I'm very tired. But as meetings start, there's the energy to meet, to talk, to investigate. And where's the tiredness? And I'm not making an effort. It's carried by the energy that arises in doing what one loves to do, or what is interesting or compelling. Interest creates energy. With interest emerges the energy to pursue it. And even though one may work longer hours than ever, it doesn't feel like effort. One may get exhausted. And then if real exhaustion sets in, then to work against that appears like effort. The exhaustion is also like a resistance. Enough. Gotta rest. And then to go against that and do more, that is felt as making an effort. I remember to this day the first lesson in physics that I had in high school. I felt very proud. I had 2 older siblings because my parents were scientists, so to have a physics lesson seemed to be a very, very special thing to feel proud of and to add to one's identity. One now is taking physics. I was not very good at it, but it was the field of my father, and I was very interested in it. Interested to learn about something that had value imbibed from the family. And the first 2 laws that we had to learn were the law of inertia and that of movement. Inertia, meaning a body will remain where it is unless moved by force. It was put much more sophisticatedly, but this is how I remember it. And a body in motion will not change its motion unless compelled by a force to change its motion. So is that sort of programmed into every cell of this body? The principle of inertia, not to move unless compelled by force, or once in motion, to resist motion, and only change if the force is sufficiently great to change the motion, or speed it up, or impede it. Thinking about a body at rest, waking up in the morning, usually, unless when it has been a miserable night of not much sleep, then one just as soon gets up. But if one has slept well, the bed and the body and the covers are warm and soft, why get up? As a real example that we can all savor of a body inert and not in need or desire to get up unless compelled by something. For myself, I have, from experience, for many years now, been in a regimen of doing exercises before getting up. I found it's the best time. I think one time in my life a doctor recommended it for the back, to do stretches and exercises before you get up, so you get up properly, the body properly toned. But a body in rest doesn't want to do exercise. Most of the time there is a resistance felt to start moving. Also, the older you get, people who are older will know what I'm talking about. The younger ones will come into it eventually. You're very stiff when you wake up. You don't want to move much. Everything aches or feels immovable. Not totally, of course. So it's a nice time to observe inertia and what gets one to move. When everything says, no, I want to stay put, I want to stay lying down, particularly not start doing exercises. So this question, for each, I'm just choosing an example which is close to my experience. You can look at different ones for yourself. But people always ask for examples so that the conversation or talk doesn't get too abstract. Then it is hard to get hold of anything directly. And this is what we're here for, to get hold of things directly, not just think intelligently about it, but look and experience for ourselves. So what is it that brings the energy to overcome this inertia to stay put? It seems to be, in great part, the knowledge and experience and memory that it is good to do exercises. Knowledge from others and knowledge from one's own experience. That the movements and the day, once out of bed, proceed smoother and more nimble if one has exercised, and less chance to pull out the back or do silly things with the body, bend in a strange way or in a harmful way. So that memory, that knowledge is there passively, and it can also activate. It can arouse energy to do this thing. Because we all want to remain, most of us, not all, we all want to remain healthy, energetic, in good shape. Not just for its own sake, but also to do the things that we need to do. A nimble, exercised body functions much more painlessly and joyfully than one that aches and is stiff and out of sorts. So all of that knowledge does generate energy to push the cover off and start pulling the legs toward the chest. And then the amazing thing that happens, once this hump of resistance is overcome, if you will, it's fun to move. The inert state is over. And now the whatever the exercises are don't seem to be effort. They're fun. Because one is there with it. The body moving. Being sort of reborn, as it were, from this state of relative immovability. So what appears to be effort, what is seen as effort in the state of inertia, and felt to need effort in that state, and the energy generated by the knowledge that it is good and helpful, that changes effort to just exercising, doing, being with what's there. So maybe we have to always look when we talk about effort, where are we speaking from? What state? And is there resistance to doing what we think we ought to be doing? And why do we think we ought to be doing something? Is it simply from what other people have said? Or is there some experience from the past? Yes, this has been helpful, this has been good. So coming here, people have mentioned it was an effort, or one can say there was work, energy applied to coming here. And now one is here, sitting down. What is the state at this moment of sitting? Because right now we're listening, looking. When one is sitting without a talk, is there resistance? It means fine-tuning to the body-mind. One word, not two words. It's one ongoing process. Body-mind, mind-body. And fine-tuning into the tensions of resistance. I'm just taking this right now. There are, of course, a million other things going on too. But we're just looking at this right now. want to do this. I hate discipline. I hate doing something that others are doing, whatever may be going on. Can one become aware of it? Because if there is no resistance aroused by thought and the tensions that the body creates accompanying the thoughts. Sometimes the body has tensions without thought. The tensions are, the resistance is programmed already into the muscles and tissue. I don't want. Can that come to light? The tensions, the wrinkles, the bracing against something? Because it is in those states that we feel effort is needed to overcome this state. And very often we waste our energy in trying to bulldoze through the state of resistance with all kinds of disciplines or whatever one has learned to do. Whereas maybe the relieving and opening thing would be to become aware of what is the wall, what is the hump or the mountain of resistance. Because if that is not clear and illuminated with attention, we labor in vain, trying to fight ourselves and not knowing what it is we're fighting. We've talked quite a bit already in a few days about self-image, the attachment to self-image and things that appear in the mind that we feel identified with. That attachment is also a resistance. It doesn't want to be uncovered. It doesn't want to be brought to light. We don't want to see ourselves, our images, and we don't want to see how we really are without images. We want to just move in the way we have, with our assumptions about ourselves. And there's a fear of finding out what we are. I may say, a totally unfounded fear, because the truth is never frightening, it is liberating. To come upon truth is never a frightening experience. It's joyful, freeing, opening. But thought doesn't know that. Thought says, don't dig. You may find out that you're nothing. And I want to be something. I don't want to go right now into all these different resistances. But is it clearing up that effort is demanded when we feel a resistance? That when there is none, there is no need to make effort. Then things are what they are. One person mentioned to me, in watching thoughts come up, in a state of open watching, in noticing a thought come up. Already the idea, I don't want this thought, I want to be without thought, is an effort. And an effort is not this open state of totally accepting whatever is happening without any resistance. That's actually the way he put it. If there isn't total acceptance of whatever happens, then there is effort. Only the total acceptance of everything that is happening in the light of awareness is effortlessness. One instant of not liking this, disliking that, liking something else is effort. And we can also say is resistance. It's the same thing. Because the effort, liking is already an effort. Disliking is already an effort. It is a disturbance in the openness of no preferences, no choice, just flowing with what's there. And I can already hear the mind saying, yes, but how do you get there? It's easy to talk about it when it's happening. But how do you or did you get there? Didn't you make tremendous effort? I don't know what causal relationships exist between the efforts we make to sit still, because there's resistance to sitting still. We may want to move, and of course if we want to keep moving, we make a resistance towards sitting. If we're sitting, we make a resistance against getting up and moving. Our whole being, I don't mean our true being of openness and freedom and love, but our ego being is one bundle of resistance. I'm throwing it out. I mean, for consideration. Wish it was that easy. So, what cause and effect relationships exist between making effort to sit quietly, to practice in a sustained way, and this opening up of effortlessness which comes on its own? It doesn't appear to have any cause. Suddenly it's there. I don't know what the causal relationship is or can be. And yet, sitting quietly, observing all what is going on in terms of resistances, and not wanting and disliking, and wanting things to be different, and dreaming of different things, and the energy with the dream, and therefore the attachment to the dream. Watching all of that is very helpful to understand ourselves and each other in a compassionate way. And it will only be compassionate if we're not blaming ourselves and each other for what is observed to be happening. There's no place for blame, because everything happens from a million causes, which themselves become effects, and the effects become causes. It's one total interrelated happening of life, universe. Not one thing the cause of something else, everything the cause of one thing, and one thing the cause of everything. If you want to speak that way in intellectual language. So, don't we just do what we need to do at this moment? If there's no effort needed because there's no resistance, it won't even occur to make an effort, because it's seen that mars and divides and narrows the open space. But if the space is not open, then can the narrowness or the darkness the resistance be observed for moments and understood in the observation. Come upon, this is what was going on just a moment ago. And therefore all this needing to fight it. There's no need to fight what is understood and seen clearly. Because what is seen clearly changes. Doesn't need to be fought with conventional weapons. So one person asked, what is discipline? Do you advocate some kind of discipline? Because if I don't have some kind of discipline, I don't do anything. I just dream away. And it's an interesting phenomenon that we can observe, that our relaxation, what we feel as relaxation, after or during our busy, hectic day of activities, things at work and relationship, relaxation is dreaming, thinking, or allowing a video or movie to do the dreaming for us. That is felt as relaxation. It is relaxing from the daily stresses and strains. So then people say, we need some kind of discipline, or else we'll just continue dreaming with our addictions to this or that. Who can answer this for one? One has to experiment for oneself. Just taking good advice from other people doesn't go very far. One has to start experimenting oneself. Try some discipline. Try to sit or come to retreats, as you're doing. Sit daily, spend some quiet time, some quiet walking, watching, having a question about what is effort, what is resistance, and then sitting down with it and observing it, or observing it as one gets up in the morning. Actually, the interest in what is effort or what is discipline or what is resistance creates the energy to watch and the time and space to do it in. It's actually what the word discipline originally means. It means learning. We use it in German. I don't know whether it's used in English at university. This is the discipline of mathematics and the discipline of biology, discipline of languages. And the disciple in olden times was the one who was studying and learning. And if there's interest and motivation to learn, then there is the time and space to do it in. And with the time and space to do it in comes the experience of helpfulness in learning. Learning is always helpful. Learning about oneself as one goes. Not from memory and from what one has stored as knowledge, but as one is living, to learn about oneself in relationship and alone. That is discipline. And it brings up always fresh questions to examine. And with an interest in a question, one will find a time to look at it. Because people say, well, I have no questions. What am I to do without questions? Sometimes people say, I don't have any interest. Really none. But something fundamental brings one here, or brings one to question. Why am I living? One person this morning said, what's the meaning of my life? What if there's no question, no interest, no spark? Why am I alive? It's a good question. What is the meaning of living and dying? If that question begins to stir and adhere to the mind and body, it will begin to reveal things. And one will also notice that taking some quiet time with stirring questions is more helpful than just being on the go all the time or entertained or distracted all the time. We need relaxation, but if there is a stirring question, it beckons to be listened to quietly, spaciously. So there are processes in operation that we know little or nothing about, and yet they do work in us to bring us to wonder, to stopping, taking time out. I've always marveled how plants, I used to have lots of plants like we have here in the center. And a plant it turns so much toward the light it almost topples over, so I'm turning it. And before long, it's back toward the light. You turn it the other way, it's back toward the light. Maybe there's something going on in all of us which is independent of the efforts we think we have to make or we are making, which calls us and pushes us, pulls us in unfathomable ways. So resistances there are, and they seem to demand an effort. But once discovered and going with it, it becomes something different. Like a movement into the unknown. And then if one asks, well, is there even movement? You have to stop to look inwardly, to listen inwardly, outwardly. Is there movement? There's bird twittering and people moving, hands moving, body moving. But isn't there also something that is not moving at all? Thought moves around trying to define it, describe it, know it. Thought is movement. Is there something that doesn't move at all? And yet illuminates everything that is moving. Without needing to move anywhere, anytime. We will end here for today.